Welcome to the .NET MAUI DataGrid tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to enable context menus for headers, records, and groups in the Syncfusion .NET MAUI DataGrid. I will also demonstrate how to add a context menu for the table summary. I open an existing MAUI application. Here, I have already configured the Syncfusion .NET MAUI DataGrid control and specified the source path to display order information. To learn how to add the .NET MAUI DataGrid control to your MAUI application, watch the video linked in the YouTube card above or the description below. Now, I run the application. You can see that order details are displayed. Now, I will show you how to add a context menu for the header. First, I define the header context menu property and add the menu item collection element. I create the first menu item labeled Sought Ascending. To this item, I add an icon using a label that renders a font icon from the MAUI Material Assets font. This font file is already stored in the Resources folder. Similarly, I create header context menu items called Sought Descending and Clear Sorting. To handle user actions for the header context menu, I navigate to the Order Info Repository View Model class. Here, I expose three commands: Sought Ascending, Sought Descending, and Clear Sorting, and initialize them in the constructor. In the onSort Ascending method, I begin by checking whether the grid or column information is null. If either is missing, the method exits immediately. After that, I store references to the DataGrid instance and the target column name for easier access. Next, I iterate through the existing sought column descriptions using a copied list to avoid modifying the collection during enumeration. If a sought description matches the target column, I then check whether it is already sorted in ascending order. If it is, no further action is needed, and the method returns. If the column is not already sorted ascending, I locate the index of the matching sought description. When the index is valid, I remove the existing entry and insert a new sought description at the same position, setting the specified column to sought in ascending order. After updating, the method exits. If the loop does not find a matching sought description in the expected way, I break out of the loop. Once the scan completes with no existing sought description for the column, I add a new one that sorts the column in ascending order. I implement the onSought Descending method in the same way, but set the sought direction to descending. In the onClear Sorting method, I begin by checking whether the grid or column information is null. If either one is missing, the method exits immediately. After that, I store references to the DataGrid instance and the target column name. Then, I iterate through the grid's existing sought descriptions. Inside the loop, I check whether the current sought description is associated with the same column whose sorting needs to be cleared. If it matches, I remove that sought description from the DataGrid. Next, I move to the main page XAML file and bind the command property of each context menu item to the sort ascending command defined in the DataGrid's view model. I follow the same approach for the sought descending and clear sorting commands. Once the application is loaded, I long press on the header. As you can see, the context menu is displayed. You can select an option to apply the desired action. To enable the context menu for records, I start by specifying the record context menu property and add the menu item collection element. I specify the first menu item labeled Delete and an icon for it. Then, I add another menu item for Undo Delete. In the View Model class, I declare two commands, one to delete a row and another to undo the last deletion. To support undo functionality, I keep track of the last deleted item and its original index. The index starts at -1 to indicate that no deletion has occurred yet. I initialize the delete command and undo delete command in the constructor. In the onDelete method, check that the context is valid and that row data is an order info item. If not, exit early. Next, I store the item and its current index to undo later. Then remove the item from the order info collection. In the onUndoDelete method, if there's no previously deleted item stored, the method exits early. Then, I store the original position where the deleted item used to be, which helps us restore it to the correct location if that index is either negative or beyond the current list size. I fall back to inserting the item at the end of the collection. Next, I reinsert the previously deleted item at the calculated position and reset the stored item and index. Now, I move to the main page XAML file and bind the command property of each context menu item to the delete command defined in the DataGrid's view model. I follow the same approach for the undo delete command. When I long press a record, the context menu is displayed. Select an option to apply the desired action. Next, I will demonstrate how to enable a context menu for group captions. I define two menu items in the group caption context menu, collapse and expand. In the view model class, I declare two commands, one to expand a group and another to collapse a group, and initialize them in the constructor. In the onExpandGroup method, I check whether the data grid or group in the context is null and exit early. Otherwise, I call the expandGroup method and pass the specific group to expand only that group. Similarly, in the onCollapseGroup method, I check the context and then call collapseGroup in the data grid for the selected group. I move to the main page XAML file and bind the command property of each context menu item to the corresponding view model commands, collapseGroup command and expandGroup command. When you long press a group, you can collapse or expand it as needed. Next, to configure the table summary and its context menu, I start by defining the table summary rows and specifying a DataGrid table summary row. I enable Show Summary in Row property to render the summary inline within a single row, and then I add a title. Inside the summary columns, I define a DataGrid summary column and set its name, mapping name, summary type, and format to calculate and display the required summaries. Next, I add the context menu by specifying the table summary context menu. Here, I create two menu items, one labeled Total Orders and another labeled Total Groups. In the View Model class, I declare two commands, one to show the total number of orders and another to show the total number of groups. I initialize them in the constructor. In the onShowTotalOrders method, I first check that the data grid in the context is null and set it to exit early. Then, I retrieve the data grid instance and compute the total number of orders. I determine which summary row to update by using the one from the context if available. If none exists, I exit the method. Next, I ensure the summary is displayed in line and update the title text with the computed total. I refresh the grid's view so the update summary appears immediately. In the onShowTotalGroups method, I verify that the data grid is present. Otherwise, it exits. Then, I store the grid instance and compute the number of groups currently in the view. I select the summary row from the context, or the first available one in the grid. If none exists, exit. Finally, I display the summary inline, update the title with the computed number of groups, and refresh the view to show the changes. In the main page XAML file, I bind the command property of the Total Orders menu item to show Total Orders command in the view model, and similarly bind the Total Groups menu item to show Total Groups command. Now, the table summary is updated. When you long press on it, the context menu appears, and you can select an option to display the desired summary. Let me wrap up this video. You learned how to enable context menus for headers, records, groups, and table summaries in the Syncfusion .NET MAUI DataGrid. If you want to see this example's working code, download it from the GitHub link in the description below. I have also included a link where you can check if you qualify for our community license, which gives you a free license key for all our .NET MAUI controls. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.